when it came to the issue of the hellfire. And he said a powerful statement I want everyone to reflect on. It's one thing to actually read it, it's another thing to actually see it. Alright? And the only time we actually see the fire is after we die. However, there's a statement from this particular companion. He said, لو يعلم أحدكم حقيقة جهنم لصرخ منا حتى ينقطع صوته ولصلى منا حتى ينقص صلبه. Subhanallah. This companion, he said, لو يعلم أحدكم, if one of you actually knew the reality of the hellfire, حقيقة جهنم, if one of you actually really knew the reality of what you were facing, you would scream out of insanity until you lost your voice. And you would stand in prayer until your spine snapped. If you really knew what you were facing. But the reality is, none of us know. And the reality is also we're ignorant. And it's human nature to become negligent. Say, I'll just worry about it later. Allah Ghafur Rahim. Allah is most merciful, which He is. But also don't forget, He's the most swift in punishment. We're going to find out what type of punishment He's going to give us. Not give us, that some people will have. And hopefully that we're saved from these particular punishments. Aameen. However, again, I just want to mention the statement of that particular companion. لو يعلم أحدكم حقيقة جهنم. If one of you actually knew the reality of the hellfire, you would scream out of insanity until you lost your voice, and you would stand in prayer seeking Allah's forgiveness until your spine snapped. If you really knew what you were facing. That's in regards to that. So, what I want to do, inshallah ta'ala, we're actually going to mention two things before actually going to the punishments. So if you're taking notes, I want you to write the time frame in the fire. Or you can write, how long will people be in the fire? Again, how long will people be in the fire? And there's either one or two options. Either a person will be khalidina fiha, either a person will remain in the fire forever. وَعِيَذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْهَا. We seek a refuge in Allah from that. Or a person will be there for a period of time, but eventually he or she will be allowed to be let out. And we still seek refuge in Allah from that. Aameen. So again, how long would a person be in the fire? It's either one or two. Either the first one, a person will be where? For how long? Forever. And we say forever, ikhwan. It's one of those words that we say in English that we don't really think about. When you say eternity, that means it never ends. As we all know, but as we really want to reflect on that, 1,000,000 years from now, a person will still be in the fire. 1,000,000,000 years from now, a person will still be in the fire. So on and so forth, so on and so forth. It will never, ever, ever end. A person will constantly be tortured and be burnt. And we seek refuge in Allah from that. Even 1 second is too long in the fire. However, again, some people, if they are fortunate enough, they will be allowed out to come out of the fire. And we already went over some of the reasons of why a person will be let out of the fire. We're not going to spend too much time on it because we have a lot of different things we want to go over. So that's in regards to the time frame, how long a person, if they are subject to the fire, how long they will be in the fire. The second one, or again, before we actually go to the punishments, is how will the people enter the fire? So if you're taking notes, I want you to write. You can text it to yourself, iPhone, or you can record. Doesn't really matter. But how will the people enter the fire? So the people enter the fire one or two ways. The first way, Allah musta'an. We seek refuge in Allah from it. But the first way will be dafa' shadid. The people will be violently pushed inside of the fire and thrown in it. So this one, what is the proof of it? Because we need proof for everything that we know, for everything that we study. So who has a Quran? Or you can have it on your phone. I need you to go to Surah Tur, verse number 13. Tur 13. Alright, Tur 13. Whoever has it, I want them to read it. Habib, you gonna be my reader? Because it's like a lot of verses.
The day on which they shall be driven away to the fire of hell with violence.
With violence. And then scholars have said, actually, what does that mean when people are being thrown in the hellfire on the day of resurrection with violence? This actually means the malaika, dafa' shadid, they will gather them and violently push them and throw them inside of the fire. Wa'iyadu billah. The second way, some people will be thrown inside of the fire And we seek refuge in Allah from it. Some people will be dragged. That the angels will grab them by their forelocks, and they would drag them on their face and launch them and throw them inside of the fire. Futihat abwabuhum. The doors of the hellfire is open, ready for the people to be tortured. This is not a joke. It's not Hollywood. This is real. The day where you will stand before Allah, and it will either be one or two options. Either it will be bliss, it will be Jannah, or the people will enter the fire. There is no third option. It's either one or the other. So that's in regards to the actual how the people will enter the fire. So again, real quick, it's either one or two options of how long a person will be in the fire, which is what? Zayd. How long will they be in the fire?
You're saying the two categories?
Yeah, two categories.
They will be in there forever.
Either forever or
they would eventually be taken out.
Or they eventually be taken out. And those obviously who will be eventually taken out are those who had a mustard seed of faith to begin with. All right. Now, Adam, also, how will the people enter the fire? It's either one or two categories.
Violently thrown or pushed.
Right. So when you say violently, it means the angels, they will what? Push them. Dafa' shadid, they will push them inside of the fire. All right. Because no one wants to go inside the fire. But people will be pushed inside of the fire. And also what? Either
violently dragged.
Or they will be dragged and thrown inside of the fire. And we seek refuge Allah from both of them. What we're going to do, inshallah, if you're taking notes, we're going to mention 21 different types of punishment that the people will be subjected to inside of the hellfire. The whole purpose of this is, one, we have to know it because it's a part of our religion. And then two, by us knowing it, perhaps, inshallah, we will take the means. First, myself first, foremost, we will try to do our best to avoid entering the fire. So again, we're going to mention 21 different types of punishment. Now, the 21 we're actually going to go over, it doesn't mean it's only 21. Just for the sake of time, because when you're speaking about the punishment of the fire, you can speak about it. If you do a long enough research, you can go on and on and on. However, for the sake of time, because next class, obviously after fear, I want to build hope. So we're going to talk about Jannah. But again, we're going to mention 21 different types of punishment. The first type of punishment is the lowest form of punishment that people will be subjected to in the fire. And this actually, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the ahwal and ahadun nar adaba, that the lowest form or the lowest type of punishment that people will be subjected to in the fire, who knows it? Who knows the hadith?
It's sandals that boil your brain, right?
It will basically be fiery shoes. The people will be made to wear these fiery sandals that are so hot that will cause a person's brain to start to boil. And this person obviously will scream. A person will scream out of pain. However, this person, even though he has the less form of punishment in the fire, he or she will feel as if they have what? The worst. The scholars of Islam also mentioned two things. This is pretty interesting. I want everybody to reflect on. What's interesting here is that the two lows. The lowest person in Jannah feels that no one has anything more than him. And then the lowest person in the hellfire feels the same way, that no one has anything worse than him. However, the reality is the rewards get better and the punishments what? It gets worse. However, this is what some of the scholars they explain as the two lows. So if you hear someone speaking about it, talking about the two lows, they're talking about the lowest person in Jannah. As is mentioned in the hadith in Sahih Muslim, this person will say, Wallahi, la u'tiya ahad mithla ma utitu. This person will say, I swear by Allah, no one got nothing like I got. Out of happiness. We're talking about Jannah. And likewise, the person in the fire will say, ain't nobody got nothing like this. Alright? However, the reality is the punishment gets worse. Now, the punishment that we actually are going to mention it, it's not going to be, for an example, this is the next level, this is the next level, this is the next level. It's just 21 different types of punishment that the people are going to be subjected to inside of the fire. Another type of punishment that the people will actually be subjected to is that some parts of the fire will only reach some of the people's feet, some will only reach some of the up to the knee, and some will only reach up to the waist, meaning the whole body will not be placed inside of the fire. Only certain parts will actually be burnt. So again, the lowest form is that the person only has what? Or a fiery cinder that will cause his what? His brains to boil. And also now this particular person, the second type of punishment is that the fire may surpass that, but it's not going to engulf the person. However, it's going to burn up to certain parts. And again, we mentioned, we're going to remind the people that Jahannam is actually a live creation. It's a wild creation. As is mentioned in the ayah in Quran, where the hellfire will say, Hal min mazid. Is there any more? He wants more. Where it's not satisfied until Allah will cause it to be satisfied. And we mentioned as well that this hellfire has how many chains attached to it? 70,000. On each chain, how many? 70,000 angels dragging this fire. So again, the second type of punishment is that the fire will begin to reach certain parts, but will not engulf the whole person. Another punishment, as we all know, we mentioned it last time, in Surah An-Nisa, verse number 56, that when the skin, for the person who enters the fire, when the skin leaves the person, or rather when it's burnt off, Allah will do what? He will replace the skin. I want you to think about this. Again, if a person, la samahallah, may Allah not decree it. However, just imagine if a person is subjected to be in the hellfire for, let's just say, I'm not saying this is a hadith, but let's just say 10,000 years. Can you imagine a person being burned and burned and burned? And that 10,000 year, it feels the same day as they first went into it. Because Allah is what? Giving them fresh skin over and over and over and over and over again. Some of us, we can't even place our hand over a hot fire. More than a second. The nar, the hellfire, the temperature of it is uncomparable. So that's in regards to that. However, so we mentioned that the skins will be replaced over and over again. One of the things also that we mentioned is that their bodies will do what? We mentioned last class. Allah will do what to the people in the hellfire?
Squeeze, make them bigger.
Huh?
Make them bigger.
It will be extremely big. And the purpose of increasing them in size is for them to what? So they can feel more punishment. It's mentioned in the hadith that Allah will increase them so much in size, the distance between their shoulders will be a distance of a person traveling for 3 days. However, they're only being increased in size so they can feel the torment of that which they used to do. These are some of the things that we know, but inshallah ta'ala, some of the things that we're going to go over will be worse. Another punishment. How many punishments is that so far?
4.
Huh?
3.
Again, we mentioned the lowest form, and then reaching up to certain parts of the body, and then the skins, and then what? Now the body. So that's 4. All right. Another one. This one I want everyone to focus on. One of the punishments here, libasuhum. What does that mean? Those who speak Arabic, what does that mean? Libasuhum. Malabis, what does that mean?
Close.
Their clothes. How can their clothes be a punishment? It's mentioned, subhanallah, in Surah Ibrahim. First of all, I want someone to go Surah Al-Hajj. And then someone else is going through the Surah Ibrahim. There's 4 types of punishment. So if you're taking notes, it's going to lead up to 8. We already mentioned 4. So now 5, 6, 7, and then what? And then 8. Surah Al-Hajj, you going to read for me?
What's the verse?
Surah Al-Hajj, 19 through 22. Before he reads it, Allah will clothe the people of hellfire out of clothing made out of fire. Not only will they be burned and tortured in the fire, they were made to be wear clothes that's also doing what? Burning. Then not only that, some of them will have clothing made out of tar. Then not only that, some people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cause boiling hot water that will be poured over the heads of the people while their clothes are burning them, while they are being burnt, and not only their heads are being burnt and melted, and it will cause their insides to also melt. Can you read the verse? Surah Al-Hajj. If you're taking notes, Surah Al-Hajj 19 to 22.
These are two adversaries who dispute about their Lord. Then, as to those who disbelieve, for them are cut out garments of fire. Boiling water shall be poured over their heads. With it shall be melted within their bellies and their skins as well. And for them are whips of iron.
And
Whenever they
one second. One of the things, so he mentioned 4 so far, and I just stopped him. Also, when a person has these clothing made out of fire, that's burning them as well. Some people have clothing made out of tar. And then also this hot boiling water be poured over their heads will melt their skins and also destroy their insides. And at the same time, these people will be whipped with iron chains. SubhanAllah. Go ahead, Akhi.
Whenever they will desire to go forth from it, from grief, they shall be turned back into it and taste the chastisement of burning.
Obviously, here some of the people will not be able to handle. No one will be able to handle the punishment of the fire. And it's mentioned in another verse, كلما أرادوا أن يخرجوا منها أعيدوا فيها وقيل لهم ذوقوا العذاب. As it's mentioned in another verse, that every time the people wish to come out of it, they will be pushed what? Back inside. Taste the punishment of that which you used to do. And notice here in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, جزاء وفاقا. How fair the punishment is for that which they used to do. If you look at, and I'm not being funny or anything like that, but if you look at the crimes that people commit against each other, the oppression that people commit against each other, men raping women, and killing children, and all these particular things that they do, oppressing people, starving people to death, and all these particular things, if you look at the oppression that mankind, how we don't love each other and treat each other nicely and so on and so forth, and we don't care for each other. When you look at the punishments of the fire, when Allah says jaza'an wifaqa, now people understand. How could you, some people, I remember reading not too long ago, there's some people in other countries, they were adopting children just to starve them to death. How could it be that? Now also makes sense when a woman during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, she adopted a cat. And why? What is one of the reasons why she went into the fire? Who knows the hadith? She kept it in the house. Not only she never, and she starved it to death. An animal. She starved it to death. Then not only did the animal, and then also she didn't even let it out to seek its own food. But if you also found that hadith, she prayed, she did this, she did that. So therefore it goes to show you, even though some of these punishments may sound just Allah musta'an, but also consider the actions of the people. Consider how people treat each other. They lie, they steal, they do all particular things. A woman has grown up, she was raped and all this other stuff. How people treat each other. Now when we look at the punishments that Allah will place upon the people, everyone will want to say that's not fair. It wasn't fair when you were starving people. It wasn't fair when you was doing that. It wasn't fair when you was committing murder. It wasn't fair when you did that. Don't cry and scream now. This is why Allah mentions that when the people want to get out, no, you're going back for that which you used to do. All right. So that's in regards to that. I'm sorry, you finished the verse?
Yeah.
All right. So what are the 4 things that you mentioned?
I got the burning clothes, the boiling water, and the whips of iron.
All right. So the burning clothes and the clothes made out of tar. It's in that verse, right?
I didn't see that in the verse.
Okay. So that's it's another one. I'm sorry. So it's the burning clothes, the boiling water,
And the whips of iron.
and then the whips of iron. And Surah Ibrahim, verse number 50, is mentioned about the clothing of tar. Who has it?
That's verse 50.
Yes.
It says, their shirts made of pitch and the fire covering their faces.
It's mentioned here in some interpretations, it's mentioned basically the clothing made out of tar. Okay, so that's the 4th one. So we mentioned now we're up to how many different types of punishment? 8. So just real quick maraja. What was one of the things you mentioned?
Lowest form.
Huh? The lowest form, fiery shoes. Some of those, speed up. That's how long the people will be. With what type of punishments? Whip chains, the boiling water.
Only certain parts of their body.
It will go up to certain parts of the body.
Burn a certain parts of the body.
Skin is burnt off, they were replaced.
And also the people will increase in what?
Size.
Size. طيب. Also, subhanAllah, regarding their clothing being made out of fire. Another thing as well that will happen here is also that another punishment that the people will be, they will have, like basically they will regret everything that they did. They will become extremely dark in their face. So one, they will start to be regretful of everything that they did, and they will become extremely dark. It's also in Surah Al-Yunus, verse number 27, if you want the proof of that one. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Now,
Okay, when you said
Amen.
the people would be burned up in certain parts of their body, and I've heard this mentioned before, would it be one side of the body will be burned as far as how ugly they were,
yeah.
and the other one will be like as if they were a good person on this side, or is that the another detail?
Allahu A'lam, as far as to, as mentioned in the hadith, as was apparent from the hadith, is that it's mentioned that it will come up to their knees, and some will come up to their waist, and so on and so forth. Now, before these people went into Jannah, which you'll mention next class when we talk about Jannah, is that Allah will place these people in basically like a lake of life, all right? And then once He places people inside of this particular lake, and they will come out extremely beautiful. Now, however, the thing that a lot of people don't know, or they may know, is that even if a person comes out of the fire, when he enters Jannah, they will still be known as people who were in the fire. It's not as an attack against them to say that, you know, you were such and such and such and such, or so on and so forth. It's not as if in Jannah they're going to be laughing at them, but they will be known as Masakin in Jannah, basically, the poor people of paradise. Even though they will not, you know, be made fun of and so on and so forth. But I hope that kind of answered the question. So one of the things you mentioned that also, one of the punishments that the people not only be regretful what they did, they will become extremely gloomy and dark as well.
This is a punishment, just being dark, like dark skin?
Well, not necessarily from the not black, but basically, as some of the scholars mentioned, they mentioned that a person will be regretful, and it will show that they become dark and so on and so forth. And this is what something that they mentioned as a punishment. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam. All right, and it's mentioned in Surah Al-Yunus. Actually, let's read it. Surah Al-Yunus, number 27. Surah Al-Yunus, verse number 27. Who has it?
And as for those who have earned evil, the punishment of an evil is the like of it.
Keep going.
The abasement shall come upon them. They shall have none to protect them from Allah, as if their faces have been covered with slices of dense darkness of night. These are the inmates of the fire, and it they shall abide.
Hey. Just in regards to this, another punishment, we are up to number 10, correct?
That's number. Well,
We did
darkness
8.
is number 9.
That was number 9, this is number 10. Number 10, and I want you to leave some space between 10 and 11, because some of the punishments of the fire is ta'amuhum sharabuhum, their food and their drink. Now, how is that a punishment? Their food and their drink will also be some of the punishments of the fire. And this, the punishment, the results of the food will differ from level to level. However, one of the things that the people will be, who knows, what's some of the food that the people will eat and drink in the fire? Hey, now?
Discharge, wound discharge.
Sleep. Basically, what happens here is that the womb, subhanAllah, out of the person wearing clothing of fire and also being burnt in hell and being punished. And we mentioned in another verse in Surah Al-Hajj that the people will be beat with iron chains for the wounds that come out of their body, the blood and everything like that. This will be that which they be given to drink as well. The wounds, the pus that comes out of the body, the discharge that comes out of the body. This will be the drink of the people of the fire.
The tree.
You have Zakkum as well. Also, for Zakkum, I want us to read it. Surah Al-Dukhan, 43 to 46. So let's read what Allah says.
43, 46.
Dukhan, 43 to 46, as the brother mentioned, Zakkum. Let's find out what is Allah talking about. You have it, Habib?
You said 43?
Yeah, verse number 43 to 46.
And surely the tree of Zaqqum is the food of the sinful. Like dregs of oil, it shall boil in, like the boiling of hot water. Seize him, then drag him down into the middle of the hell. Then pour above his head of the torment of the boiling water. Taste, you foresaw are the mighty, the honorable. How far?
That's it. So basically here what happens as well is mentioned that the food of the people of the hellfire, that which they eat, not only will not be for nourishment, obviously. To what? To cause them pain and torture. And not only will the food that they eat will cause them pain, it will also rip their insides as well and burn their insides. And on top of that, can you imagine drinking the pus, your own pus and blood? As well, boiling hot water being poured over the heads of the people of the fire. Jaza'an wifaqa.
I thought شجر زقوم is شجر.
أي شجر هو شجر وهو يأكلون من هذه الشجرة. أي نعم. أي نعم. So زقوم جزاك الله خير على التوضيح. زقوم as well, basically it's a tree that the people will eat from. And it's a thorn. These thorns that people will eat from will basically rip their insides as well. Alright? As well, some of the punishments as well, that we want to mention, that from the food and from the drink. Can you please read? And this is the Ghashiyah, 6-7. So Habib's going to go to Ghashiyah. And can someone else go to Al-Haqqa, 35-36? So we have two verses. Ghashiyah, 6-7. Haqqa, 35-36.
They shall have no food but of thorns, which will neither fatten nor avail against hunger.
طيب. Who has Haqqa? 35-36? I guess everybody loves your voice, mashallah.
I'm trying to take notes. If you can go back after just the surah and the verse associated with each one, so
All right.
I have the notes here.
Sure.
All right. What was the next one?
Haqqa, 35-36. We need another brother to help Habib out. Who has a phone?
Yo.
تفضل.
He's getting it.
Huh?
He's getting it.
Okay, please. While he's reading that, we're going to do number 11.
I have it.
Do you have it? تفضل يا شيخ. سبق بك عكاش.
35 and 36, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So there is not any loyal friend for him this day, and nor any food except pus, discharge of wounds. None will eat it except the wrongdoing sinners.
SubhanAllah. You ever cut yourself and see the blood come out? You imagine drinking that and eating that? We'll pass it. Astaghfirullah. طيب. على كل حال. Number 11. Number 11, قيودهم. The people, not only will they be tortured, they will be chained down. You can't move. And this also is in Surah Al-Saba, 33, Surah Al-Ghafir, 71. So I want someone to go to Saba, 33, Ghafir, 71. The people will actually also be chained down in the fire. They cannot move.
What verse in Surah 7?
33. All right, 33.
Okay. And those who were deemed weak shall say to those who were proud, nay, it was planning by night and day when you told us to disbelieve in Allah and to set up lights with him. And they shall conceal regret when they shall see the punishment. And we shall put shackles on the necks of those who disbelieve. They shall not be requited but what they did.
Here, and it will come in another verse, here what's going to happen is that Allah will change the hands of the people to their necks. They won't be able to move. at all. And it's going to become why in another verse. Another verse, another punishment, type of punishment, is going to become clear why the people are being chained up like this. Can you read Surah Al-Ghafir? 71.
When the shackles are around their necks and the chains, they will be dragged.
Here also, what's going to happen is that not only is a person being chained up in the fire, wearing clothes made out of fire, having boiling water poured over them, being hit with iron, they're being chained up to be dragged like whatever in the fire. Being dragged. Being thrown around in the hellfire. Also, another punishment is number 12 is the wisdom of why the people are being chained up, or however you want to word it. How will the people defend themselves? And this is when it becomes clear. I want someone to go to Surah Al-Zumar, verse number 24. Zumar, verse number 24. Habib?
Is he then who has to guard himself with his own person against the evil chastisement on the resurrection day? And it will be said to the unjust, taste what you earned.
All right. Here, and the actual verse is mentioned, but what he. All right. And this is what is actually mentioned. So the actual, but what he is mentioned in the verse, his face. What I actually want you to think about is, if you were fighting someone in this world, and someone was to strike you, what's the natural reaction? He's a strike back. Of course. But obviously you're going to fight back. But if someone is coming at you, right? If I was to swing on Adam right now, so I'm sorry, Adam. I love you, brother, but you got to go like that. All right? So anyway, if I was to swing on Adam right now, what's your natural reaction, Adam?
Keep away from him.
The hands. Close your eyes. You ain't from the street, all right? All right. So having the natural reaction is to what? For you to throw your hands up. Either you're going to fight back, or to throw your hands up to stop the blow from hitting your face, right or wrong? All right. Somebody said run. Oh. Alhamdulillah. All right. So what's going to happen here is, well, this is why the people will be chained. There is no defense. When the people are being hit with chains, you can't put your hands up. Hit in the face, hit in the body, being clothes made out of fire, water being poured over your head, you being dragged around the fire like a rag doll. There's nothing you can do except take the punishment. SubhanAllah. You understand that? There's nothing you can do.
So this is number 12.
There's no defense. There's no defense in the fire. Again, if you were to fight someone, the natural reaction is to block it, put your hands up, so on and so forth. In the hellfire, your hands are chained to your neck. Take it. Nothing you can do about it. Scream all you want. It doesn't matter. Also, not only you being hit with iron chains, and Allah knows best how heavy that chain is. At the same time, boiling hot water being poured over your head. That's making your skin boil and fall off your body. And then Allah's going to make it replenish and do it all over again. Eating food that's going to make your insides fall out your body. And being thrown around in the fire. There's nothing you can do. So this is number 12. There is no defense against the punishment in the fire. No self-defense. Number 13. Also, firashuhum. SubhanAllah. The people will also be made to lay on a bed made out of fire. And also a covering. They're covered like how we go to bed at night. You put a cover over you. A covering will also be made out of fire. And it's also Surah Al-A'raf 41. 741. The chapter is 741. Who can read it? Somebody else other than Habib. Give Habib a break. Okay, no one wants to give you a break, Habib. All right.
They will have from hell a bed, and over them coverings of fire, and thus do we recompense the wrongdoers.
This jaza and wifa. This is taste the punishment of that which you used to do. Again, all the punishments that we went over prior, And then also now there's a bed made out of fire. Lay on it. Allah knows best how hot that bed is. Alright? Then not only that, here's a cover as well. Made out of fire. A person is chained up. There's nothing you can do. Alright? So that's what number? 13, alright?
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 14 is, if you want to call it a prison, it's sijnum. Right? They're prison. And basically, the people will be pushed inside of a tight, closed area. Shoved inside of a tight makan dayyik. These people will be pushed inside of a particular area. Now, some of the scholars of tafsir, hadith, they actually mention that within this particular, I was about to say cell, excuse me, with this particular area, or this place that's being pushed inside, there's different types of torment that they will be tortured with, each and every person. But let's read it. It's in Surah Al-Furqan, verse number 13. Furqan 13. Again, alhamdulillah, once we finish today, we're done with the fire, alhamdulillah, and then we'll talk about Jannah next class.
And when they are thrown into a narrow place therein, bound in chains, they will cry out thereupon for destruction.
Again, person is chained up, being thrown inside, as mentioned, makan dayyik. A small, narrow, tight, you can't move on top of that. And a lot of people are being forced inside this area, made with close of fire, hit with iron, boiling water being poured on top of them at the same time. These are some of the things that the people will go through, and we seek refuge in Allah from every last one of them. Amen. This is why you find in another hadith that the hellfire itself complained to Allah. It's mentioned in the hadith, the hellfire, some of my parts is eating up other parts. If the hellfire itself is complaining to Allah to save parts of it from other parts, how much more for people when they enter the fire? Also here, now number 15. The 15th type of punishment that the people will go through. And this punishment, as mentioned before, there's several different types of punishment. One of the punishments that actually then what happened to the people, the other punishment is basically mental torture. And also this is number 15, that the people will start to curse one another and blame one another. It's because of you I did such and such and such and such. We in hell together, it don't really matter. So on and so forth. But this, what I mean here is that now the people will look at the other people and they will start to hate each other and remember it's because of you I did such and such. Oh Allah, give them di'f al-adhab, give them more of the punishment. People in the hell making dua against each other. Alright, so let's read it. It's Surah Al-A'raf 7:38. Have you?
Yeah.
I know you're taking notes out here.
38.
7:38.
He will say, enter into fire among the nations that have passed away before you from among jinn and men. Whenever a nation shall enter, it shall curse its sister, until when they have all come up with one another into it. The last of them shall say with regard to the foremost of them, our Lord, these led us astray, therefore give them a double chastisement of the fire. He will say, everyone shall have double, but you don't know.
Allah. Give him twice. No, everybody got twice now.
Because they arguing.
You arguing with each other? All right, you both get it then. Again, these punishments, it's horrendous. It's you can't even fathom it. But just, again, take a step back and consider how people treat each other. Murder, and starving each other, and so on and so forth. Just we fell. It's equal as the punishment that what you used to do. SubhanAllah. Look at history as well, how people enslaved people and treated people. SubhanAllah. And if they were to live forever, they would do it forever. So the punishment is forever. Alright, so that's number 15, right?
15.
Number 16, I want you to think about this. How is this a punishment نفسهم, the breath of the people of the fire.
That's a punishment in this life.
Astaghfirullah.
I mean, not as bad.
Astaghfirullah. I gotta find another reader, man. Play it. Here, nafasahum, their breath. It's mentioned in the hadith, وصححه Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah. Shaykh al-Albani is mentioned, there is a hadith that's authenticated by Shaykh al-Albani. In this hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned, لو كان في هذا المسجد 100,000 فيه من أهل النار. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, if there was 100,000 people, I want y'all to think about this. He said, if there was 100,000 people in this masjid, if there's 100,000 people in this masjid, and there was وَفِيهِ رَجُلُ وَاحِدٌ مِنْ أَهْلِ النَّارِ, and there was one person from the people of the fire. So again, you have how many people in the masjid? 100,000. Listen to this hadith. Prophet ﷺ, he said, if there was 100,000 people in this masjid, how many people in Colombia? Yeah. All right. This is
$1.25 million.
all right. So anyway, there's 100,000 people in this masjid. The Prophet ﷺ said, and if there was one man from the people of the hellfire, with enough first, and he was to do that, to blow his breath, the whole masjid will be on fire and he will kill everybody. The breath of the people of the fire.
Deadly.
Again, لو كان في هذا المسجد 100,000 وفيه رجل واحد من أهل النار وتنفس. If there was 100,000 people in this masjid, and there was just one man from the people of the hellfire, and he was to breathe, the whole masjid itself will be on fire, it will disintegrate, it will be destroyed, and everyone in it will be burned to death. That's number what?
16.
17. Not only, again, the people clothing are made out of fire. We went over the iron chains and so on and so forth. Also, there will be wild animals inside of the fire that will attack and torture the people. It's mentioned in the hadith that will have a wild, vicious snake. While the people are being chained up, tortured, the snake will bite at them. A vicious snake will bite at them and play with them. Bite this and bite this, rip this apart, rip this apart, rip this apart, rip this apart, while the person is being tortured and burned itself. The snake just playing with the person, ripping them apart. And also, not only will the person, not only in the hellfire, there's wild snakes, there's also wild scorpions. That while the snake is also ripping these people apart, the scorpion will also sting this person. Playing with the people of the fire. These are some of the punishments that the people will be subjected to, and we seek refuge in Allah from everything that we know and we don't know. Amen. That's number 17. Number 18 is that we have the people, and we also went over these punishments, but some of the punishments as well is that their insides will fall out. Their intestines, everything will fall out of their bodies. And it's a hadith that actually I advise myself and any person who teaches to fear this hadith. And we ask Allah to forgive us if we're not from those who are sincere, to make us from those who are sincere. Some of the punishment that the people will go through, it's hadith where they will see a man basically running around picking up his intestines in the fire. The people, they will look at him and say, Anta fulan fulan, you so and so and so and so. Well, you used to tell us such and such and such and such. How the hell are you in hell with me? This person will mention, I used to tell you to not do it, and what? And be the first person to do it. And I used to tell you, do it, and I'll never do these particular things. The hypocrisy. So one of the punishments is that not only his own intestines, he's gathering up his intestines, but now also he's exposed to the people of the fire. You so and so and so and so. Such and such and such and such. You a hypocrite. Alright? So that's in regards to number 18. Number 19, صراخهم, the scream of the people of the fire. The screaming out of insanity. Alright? Then that's in Fatir 37. Can someone read it? Surah Fatir, verse number 37. Habib?
And they shall cry therein for succor. O our Lord, take us out. We will do good deeds other than those which we used to do. Did we not preserve you? Alive long enough, so that he who would be mindful in it should mind? And there came to you the warner. Therefore taste, because of the unjust there is no helper.
Sarahum, the scream of the people of the hellfire. One of their punishments. That's 19, verse number 20, 20, is the tears and the crying of the people of the hellfire. Not only all these things they're being subjected to, people crying. Let's read that. Surah At-Tawbah 82. Habib? 82.
Therefore they shall laugh little and weep much, as a recompense for what they earned.
Person crying in the hellfire out of regret and out of remorse of that which they used to do. How they used to treat people. I should have took advantage of this, took advantage of that. While they're being tortured and being ripped apart, stung and bitten by snakes and so on and so forth. A person crying violently. There's no going back. There's nothing you can do about it. And if you are from those who believed, the very least, inshallah, you will have something to look forward to. A person will be let out. But if you are from those khalidina fiha, millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of years, you will remain there forever. 21. People will also be insulted as well. I know I said 21, but there's 22. I forgot to just add one more.
Bonus.
Bonus, yeah. Bonus. 21 of the people will be insulted. Surah Al-Hajj 57.
Hajj 57.
Yes, sir.
And as for those who disbelieve and reject our communications, these it is who shall have a disgraceful chastisement.
Want to come to you, did you not do it? Why you didn't take advantage, so on and so forth. People will be insulted. Blame on no one but yourself. Shaitan, famous ayah in the Quran. Shaitan himself is being tortured. He'll tell the people what?
I just suggested.
Huh? Not before that. Huh? La tulumuni lumu anfusukum. Don't blame me, but blame what? Yourself. Don't look at me now. We're both in hell. Nothing I can do for you. Don't blame me, but blame yourself. You ever been, and I want that point to come home. You ever been in a situation with a friend or anybody, and as soon as something happened, you look at him, he look at you, like it's all on you. I ain't do nothing. Start blaming each other. You know how you feel at that moment? Imagine a person being in the fire, being tortured and burned after being insulted, being bitten by snakes, ripped apart, hit with chains, chained up, thrown inside of a small ditch, wearing clothing of fire and iron, and laying on a bed of fire. And after all this torture, you got the nerve to look me in my face and say, "Don't blame me, but blame myself." Don't blame me, but blame yourself. This is what some of the people will be going through, and again, we mentioned 21. These are not only 21 punishments that people will be subjected to. These are just some of the things for the sake of time. This is a lot more. But 22 is that, as is mentioned in another verse, that even though the punishment that we already mentioned, Allah will increase the people in punishment. That's 22. Despite anything that we mentioned, there's other punishments that no one knows about that they're waiting for. And the people will be increased. There is no increase, there is no break, there is no getting out, and the increase the people will have was only in punishment. So these are the 21 things, or 22 rather, the different types of punishment that the people will be subjected to. In the last class we did the description of the fire. This class we did the punishment of the fire. Next class we will start entering Jannah, and what will the rewards of the people, what they will get. Again, we're going to talk about, and generally speaking, what the people, and this also includes men and women. We're also going to mention things that women will have in Jannah. All right, that women will have in Jannah. We're going to talk about. It's going to be about 3 to 4 classes about Jannah alone. Because we want to build hope of the people, and there's a lot of different rewards. All right, that people know about and that they don't know about. What is going to be the food of Jannah? What's going to be the first food of Jannah? The houses of Jannah, the so on and so forth. We're going to talk about all these particular things in detail, inshallah ta'ala. But before we end, if I could just take 3 more minutes of your time, again, and then we'll open up for questions. But again, after we finish this course, the Hereafter series, because it's going to end with Jannah. All right? But after we finish this Hereafter series, what we're going to do is, there's 2 different courses we want to teach. One about the technique of giving da'wah. For example, if you're talking to a Christian, what verses in the Quran that will be basically about Isa alayhi salam, about Maryam alayhi salam, to explain your points. Also within this course, we're going to take controversial issues. I said that right? Yeah. Controversial. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Controversial issues about, for an example, if someone comes to you, because we hear all the time, especially students and the young adults, or the young adults in the masjid when they go to college. If someone asks you on the street, you guys, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he married Aisha, she was young. How do you explain that? All right. So how do we explain that? How do you intellectually explain that? How do you explain this? How do you explain that? How do you tudafi' an deenik? How do you defend your religion? All right. And also, let's say if you came across your brother in the street and he was committing sins, so on and so forth, what verses of the Quran, what hadith you can use to get him, inshallah ta'ala, to come back. So this is the dawah course that we want to have in place. Again, it's going to be how to interact with Muslims, how to interact with non-Muslims, and how to interact with those who are Muslim, however they're open sinners, they really don't care. Basically, how do you teach people about the beauty of your religion? There's so many different negative things going on in the world. We need to be able to explain our religion. Okay? That's one course. The next course that we mentioned is going to be fiqh al-nikah and fiqh al-talaq. That the fiqh of nikah, of how to get married, who can be a wali, who can't be a wali, so on and so forth, the diary, the ahkam when it comes to diary, and all particular things, the women's rights, all right, because you have a lot of brothers that impede on the women's rights. So how, sister trying to know her rights when it comes to marriage. Okay, also, what is a khula? How do you separate, so on and so forth. What is a talaq? You have a lot of brothers, they divorce when they're not supposed to be divorced. The divorce don't count, it does count. These particular things. People divorcing each other, they don't even know that, divorce didn't count or it did count. People divorce each other 10, 15 times and so on and so forth. So we need to know all these particular rules when it comes to that. So again, we did it in the beginning of class, we took a vote. We're going to do it again. So now you can have a bird's eye view of both courses. Once we finish this about the people of Jannah, which course are you interested in taking? So by show of hands, how many people would like to start with the dawah course first?
Can I say something quick before we go?
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are aware, but the Bastion is actually working on starting a Dawah committee right now. We had a meeting just this past Sunday, and inshallah we talked about this very thing, having a Dawah training class. For anybody who's here and is willing to join the Dawah committee, Brother Abdul Wahhab, how do you say his name? Bassett? Bassett?
I just came to say the same.
Well, you can go ahead and take over, inshallah.
You may allow me that we should give a priority for da'wah, because da'wah is needed by the community and everybody, every
do some training.
Okay, خلاص.
The Da'iyah, and we already had a meeting yesterday, but sorry to say that we will draft from 15 members to 5 members.
طيب.
And maybe by next meeting will be only 1 member. So we appreciate that people can show up because something is needed.
طيب إن شاء الله.
And we be committed saying if there are nobody in Colombia doing now. We don't know any masjid, include ourselves, that make an organized effort towards da'wah.
طيب الحمد لله. إذن inshallah ta'ala, once we finish about the rewards of the people of Jannah, again, we're going to start the next class. So it'll be about 3 classes talking about Jannah itself, or 3 or 4. And we're not going to focus on every little detail because it will take forever to talk about the rewards of Jannah. But just, and likewise the hellfire. However, just about 3 classes or 2 classes talking about Jannah. And then once we finish that, we will start the dawah course bidnillahi ta'ala. Is there any questions about the 21 punishments that we mentioned today?
Yeah, can you just briefly, the ones that did have verses attached to them, we could just, number 1, chapter, whatever, the verse, and just attach it to us as far as for the notes?
Go back and run off the 21?
If you could quick, let me not read them off this.
All right, so number 1, about the lowest of the people of the hellfire. That's a hadith that's muttafaqun alayh, about the fiery shoes. Number 2, about, now, and I probably read it out of order on this paper, but number 2, about the people, about the fire reaching certain parts of the body. That's a hadith in Sahih Muslim, Sahih. Also, what's the next one we mentioned about the changing of the skin?
I'll increase the size of the people.
Increase the size of the people. This is a hadith as well. About the changing of the skin. It's in Surah An-Nisa, verse number 56.
456.
456. About the people, about the darkness of the faces. That's the next one. Yes?
No, you did the burning clothes, the boiling water.
That was
whips.
Surah Al-Hajj 19 through 22. And also about the clothes made out of tar, Surah Ibrahim, verse number 50. Alright. And the next one's about the darkened face, right? Yes?
The darkened face.
Tayyib. Surah Yunus, verse number 27. The next one about the food, ta'amuhum wa sharabuhum. We mentioned the Saqum, Dukhan, 43 to 46. Dari' Ghashiyah, 6 to 7. Ghislin, Haqa, 35 to 36. Hamim, Surah Al-Muhammad, verse number 15. And I have a lot more, but I didn't mention those. Quyuduhum, they're being, that's it?
Yeah, I got that one.
Oh, you got the other ones. All right, alhamdulillah.
Excuse me. I'd like to mention, especially for the sister, we have 2 Muslim sisters here that for the first or the second time to come to the masjid. And I would like you, inshallah, at least you can meet them. At least you can shake hands with them. Because people come and leave and nobody know about them, and after they say, nobody care, all right? Please raise this hand, sister. This is one sister and another sister here. So please meet them after the class. Thank you. Anybody live in Broad River Road? Anybody? Okay. You have a truck?
Set up. Yeah.
Or you catch a ride with somebody?
No, I have right, yeah, I have a truck.
You mind to give the sisters the ride there?
Okay.
Thank Allah. Thank you very much.
طيب سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت واستغفر الله واتوب اليه. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.
So,